Hello, everyone. I'm high and maybe a little drunk. I had 2 glasses of wine at dinner, and I'm drinking some liquids, even though it's got sodium. It's sucking me dry like a mummy. Anyway, what do you guys think, huh? This movie is called The Legend of Hell House. It was made in 1973, and I don't know, it's a little violent. It doesn't have a lot of boobage. It's got some. It's also incredibly stupid. I watched this at a young age and I loved it, so I'm very nostalgic for this movie. I will give it that while this movie has horrible dialogue, and while the story is absolutely ridiculous, I do have to point out that they really do get the atmosphere down. The house is spooky. This Hell House, which is a strange name. I mean, it's called the Belasco House. That's the actual name. I don't want to give too much away. Let's begin. So the movie opens with a little placard, like it's a sightings episode, which is a disclaimer. It's like this never really happened. The legend of Hell House. It's not real. A legend. This legend never really occurred. Just disclaimer. But it could. That was lame. But so we start off the movie. We're like, yeah, this never really happened. But hey, might. Immediately they hit us with music. It's a really jarring opening. And it's kind of weird. It's like synthesizers and bongos. So there's a guy named Dr. Barrett and his wife Anne, and they're waiting in this large lobby area. And then a woman comes in and she's like, "Mr. Deutsch, we'll see you now." And they go in, and we learned nothing about Mr. Deutsch. Just that he's got money. He's filthy rich and self-consumed. And maybe also sick, I don't know. Again, we get no info on him. He just comes up in his wheelchair and he's like, "I want the facts! I want the facts of the afterlife! I'm a physicist! I study the paranormal, but I'm a physicist!" I don't know what that means. It's like an oxymoron. He's like, "I'm very confused about myself, and you're telling me you'll give me 100,000 pounds to give you the facts?" That's such a vague request. He's like, "I want the facts. I want to know." Dude, how can I prove to you the facts exactly? Like, what will you accept? And the guy's like, "I want the facts. I'll accept the facts." And he's like, "Well, where would I find such facts anyway?" "The Belasco House." "You mean Hell House?" And Mr. Deutsch is like, "The same." And he gives a little short history. You know, I gotta say, we learn the history of Hell House in small increments throughout the film, as if anyone fucking cares. But it's such a lame history, and it's really vague. It's super vague. It's undeveloped to the nth. I might as well tell you what it is right now, because again, we just get it in little irrelevant nuggets, you know? Every now and then we'll get bored with whatever's going on, and we'll need a little downtime, like, there's fire flying out of the fireplace, and now we need to rest for a bit before the radio blows up. You see, this house was built in 1919, and if you consider that this film takes place in 1973, that means this house is, I think, 53 years old. It's 53 years old. It's not a very old house. Oh, but wait a minute, hold on. That's when it was built, 1919. We need people to move in, and something tragic to happen to spook it. And the dude who moved in was Emmerich Belasco. What his sickness was, again, they don't tell us. They give us nothing about this guy except that he was into weird sexual things, and he might have murdered someone. Who knows? Apparently, one night, everyone locked the doors and windows, and screams were heard, and 27 people were found massacred. It's witchy. But by the way, Belasco was not amongst them. Nobody knows where he went. No one ever saw him again, so I have to assume he died. Or people do. This is like 1929, so within the period of 10 years, 29 people have died in this house. That's definitely more than one a year. That's like 2 a year, maybe 3 a year. Okay, so this house has claimed a number of people, but it ain't done. Because there's going to be exploratory teams. In 1953, 20 years before, so the house would be 33 years old, that's when they led the first investigation. The house has only been around for 33 years. Okay, so the first investigation takes place because already it's being spooked. The people that live there, they're like, "There's ghosts!" Man, they moved in quick. And now they're spooking the whole place. It's been filled with energy. And Emmerich Belasco, I don't know, he lives on or something. And he's living on now. He's spooking people. And the first exploratory team that went in there, well, they took a look around. They probed the areas. And then they all died. I mean, that's what we're told. Everyone's like, they died. They died in that house. They all were murdered. Just like the 27 or 28 people that came before him. But here's the bullshit, all right? Later on in the film, and much later on after they say that, Fisher, one of the main characters, he tells us, you know, this person left mentally crazy. This person crawled out schizophrenic. This person came out totally insane. And this person came out with broken legs. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I was told that no one came out of the house. I was told that they all died. What are you talking about? People came out of the house. I mean, he's like knitting things together. He's forming a conclusion that's going to help him solve the puzzle, but it totally is not compatible with the setup. So they're like, yeah, everyone died in the house except for everybody. Fisher didn't. 20 years go by, and the Belasco family gets, I don't know, desperate for money, and so they rent it out to this crazy old dude. And he's like, I want the facts. And not like having the facts is going to change anything, but I don't know. Maybe I should repent, or I should start up some philanthropy. I don't know. But I'm not going to take that risk financially until I know if there's the afterlife. So go find out. Oh, by the way, I'm sending you there with 2 mediums. These are crazy psychics. One of them is Fisher. He's the last person. He came out apparently a mental wreck. That's what they say. I don't know. How is he going to help? And then they're also going to send Miss Tanner. Now, Miss Tanner, I don't know. Her character seems conflicted. She's from a nunnery, or that's where they pick her up on the way to the house. She's always wearing like a weird Sister James outfit, and she's got a cross on, even in the part of the movie where she's not wearing pants. We'll talk about that. And she's also a psychic. She talks to dead people. She's a necromancer. She can't go to church. I don't want to sound like the vicar or something, but dude, that's like Christianity 101. You can't fucking talk to spirits and also go to church and take communion. She's conflicted. So Dr. Barrett comes out and he sits down and he's like, Anne, honey, I think we're going to have to go up to the hell house. She's like, well, I want to come with you. She's like, I want to come stay with you at Hell House because we always do things together, dear. And these other people. It's really weird that she wants to go hang out with them and do this. Fisher, they pick him up. They pick up Miss Tanner again at the nunnery. So the whole group drives up to the house. And they get out and they see that the windows are bricked up. And Anne, she's like, why are they all bricked up? And Fisher says it was to keep people from seeing in. Or seeing out. Whoa! This is a preview of the dialogue to come. They walk up and they go inside. Again, I gotta admit, it's kind of spooky. It's all dark and kind of cavernous because there's no light coming in. There's no windows. Miss Tanner can't keep her observations to herself. They kind of tell her to shut up. They're like, Miss Tanner, be quiet. I'll get familiar with the concept of internalization. The dialogue in this movie is so crappy because it's composed mostly of rhetorical questions. Questions such as, oh, really? Do you now? Well, that's strange, isn't it? Questions like that just kind of thrown in to be smug or coy or skeptical. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Or it'll be like a snappy comeback. One of them's here. They're going around, they're looking, and then they see a door. And this door catches their eye for absolutely no reason. They're like, look at that doorway down there. That's weird. That's the chapel. And I gotta tell you, man, this is definitely the spookiest room in the house. I mean, this is even spookier than the nursery. They go in there, and it's got like a gate, like a cage, like you would keep people in there, like from getting out. And they open that up, and they go on in, and it's got low benches and creepy paintings on the walls, and it's got a large effigy of Jesus, like life-size, and it's got arrows sticking out of it. And he's like, wow, this... I mean, I think I might come praying here every night. It's great that they built this. What are they using it for? They never leave the house, not even to go to church. They just brought God's house to their house. Miss Tanner won't even go in. She's like, I'm sorry, but my lymph nodes hurt, or my spleen feels weird. My thymus, it's squirming. I don't want to go in there right now. I'm not prepared. Fisher, well, here's the deal. Fisher has closed himself off. We learn this later. It's kind of his dirty secret. I mean, he's a psychic, and he closed himself off. They get really uptight about it. They're like, open up, Fisher. You can't come in here and claim to help, but the whole time be listening to nothing. I mean, he's like plugged his ears mentally. I don't really know what they mean by it, but he's like, I'm not letting the spirits in. Open up and let the supernatural malcontent into your soul, Fisher. But not right now. Now he's just going to walk in there and be a normal human being. And, be uncomfortable, but that's about it. And Miss Tanner outside, she hears something, and it's a phonograph. Now this is very strange. Here's a phonograph, and she goes over. They're like, Miss Tanner, you gave us quite a fright, wandering off like that. Don't leave my sight again! Dr. Barrett, Lionel. Well, I'm sorry, but I was guided over to this phonograph. Listen! It's a recording of, I don't know, what I assume must be Emmerich Belasco, I'm listening to him talk, and he's saying some random shit, and then Mr. Fisher, he's like, yes, well, Belasco used to say that he could will people's attention to a certain object and then move amongst them unseen. That's stupid. Or someone refutes that. And he's like, really? Is it now? Again, there's one of those questions. Is it now? Well, how do you know he didn't walk by us but a moment ago? Then we see the cowboys in the wind, which is coming from nowhere. They all decide that after unpacking, the first thing that they should do is have a seance, or a sitting, that's what they call them. Miss Tanner sits down, and she's like, all right, I'm gonna say a prayer and then summon the spirits. Again, this is just weird. I mean, it's like they didn't care. Why did they make her so religious? It seems unnecessary. I'm gonna summon Satan now. Help me, God. Here's the cool thing, okay? This is, I think, about 10 years before Poltergeist. We start getting some shit like that right about here. She's like talking in weird other voices.
I don't know you people.
Get out from there, you all, you bastards! Dr. Barrett gets up and slaps her. She comes out of it. She's like, whoa, geez, I feel like I was possessed by Daniel Belasco, Emmerich Belasco's son. By the way, this person doesn't exist. It's a projection of Emmerich Belasco, if you give a shit. I mean, he's deceiving her. She's naive. I feel like I'm being possessed by a young man, and I like it. It's kind of like I get to fuck someone, but remain pure. That evening, Daniel visits Miss Tanner's room. Florence. She's in bed. She's, I don't know, reading a book. She's walking around. She spends a lot of time in the shower, too, so again, I don't know what she's doing. She may be brushing her hair. And then Daniel comes in. He opens the door and shuts it. And we can't see who did it. And then he walks over and throws the sheets on her. And she says something mean to him and he runs out. It's kind of dumb. There's like this large dining room and it has this long communion table which is always set for 12 people. And littered with food. Like they never clean it. So he's sitting there and they're talking. They're cutting pancakes. They get in a fight over where the syrup went. And then they find out that Mrs. Butterworth is under the table. They all have a laugh about it. And then Miss Tanner comes in, and she's like, oh, hey, guys, what's going on? I'm going to pour myself some oolong. Daniel came to visit me last night. That's right, that bad boy. He threw a pillow on me, or a sheet, or he's playful. He's being held here. She feels good about it. I mean, she's going to see him a couple of times, and at a certain point, he will give her an orgasm. She's going to go there. Yeah, I'm forming a relationship with Emmerich's son. I don't know if that's going to complicate our investigation any. They decide that they're going to have one more sitting. They're like, okay, let's do another sitting with you, Florence. Under scientific conditions, though. Right now, Dr. Barrett is going to have final say. And I gotta say, man, the way he does it is really weird. I would not have consented to this if I were her. She's like sitting there and she's wearing all sorts of little things on her hands and wrists. She's got like a lie detector going, and she's got a little clip on there to monitor her pulse. And for whatever reason, I don't know, she has heat lamps on her, like these red lights are on her, like she's in a terrarium. And she's also not wearing pants. She's still wearing her cross, which is just sexy. But she ain't wearing pants for I don't know what reason. So yeah, Dr. Barrett made her take off her pants. He was like, these are scientific conditions, okay? I'm going to attach the electrode pasties. And let's begin the sitting. She starts talking to spirits. She's getting into it. Now, the thing about this particular sitting is that she's going to, I mean, we're building up to something, right? I mean, when are we going to come? And the spirit's going to give it to us. It's time to have a ectoplasmic phantasm. She's sitting there, and suddenly white strands begin to come from her fingertips, and they're coming out. Ectoplasmic strands extruding from extremities. Coming out. Coming towards the vial. Going towards the vial. And it comes up, it like kind of comes out, and it's peeking down towards this vial. I don't know why it thinks to do that, but it's like, woohoo! Leave a sample in the jar! He starts shouting at her. He's like, put a sample in the jar! Come in the flask! And she starts doing it, and then I don't know what happens. Something happens, like something blows up maybe, or I don't know, something goes screwy, and she screams, and the ectoplasm gets like sucked back into her body. She's like, she wakes up, and oh god, that was amazing. She's totally spent, and again, I think the tape recorder blew up. God damn it! I didn't get a sample of the plasm. You didn't come in the flask like I told you to. God damn it! Now I'm gonna have to do it. This is so great. They cut immediately to his wife, and they're in their bedroom, and she's futzing. I don't know what she's doing. She's like, do you think I ruined your evening? I'm sorry that I did, if that's how it feels. What's she talking about? She's like, I know I ruined your evening. I'm sorry. She was the only one who did nothing. I need to make that clear. She did absolutely nothing. Fisher, I think, grabbed Miss Tanner after she, shot ectoplasm and then pulled it back into her body. I think he grabbed her and, held her for a while during the aftershocks. And, of course, Dr. Barrett was there talking into his tape recorder, but his wife was doing nothing, and it was all her fault. I mean, I knew you would have gotten a sample of the plasm had I not, I don't know, been thinking weird thoughts. It's kind of like Ghostbusters. It just kind of came into my head. I thought something weird, and then the plasm retracted. There's no reason to get all upset with my wife over a little spilled ectoplasm. Let's go to bed. Now, here's what happens. We know all about Miss Tanner's midnight shenanigans. Again, she's being fingered by Daniel Velasco. No one believes her either, by the way. She has to insist upon it, which is so undignified, but man, she does it with conviction. We'll get to that, but let's talk about someone else who does something undignified. It's Anne, Lionel's wife. The ghost really loves fucking with her for some reason in a sexual way. And I gotta let you know right now, man, that Emmerich Belasco, again, they never explain what his sickness was, how it might have led to the deaths of 27 or 28 people. I mean, all they really tell us is that he was into weird sexual things. He might have been into murder too, I don't know. But they're like bestiality, sexual cannibalism, BDSM, pile drivers, stand and deliver, trannies. There was weird scat stuff too. It was totally creepy. Golden showers. Ooh. And he's going through all this gamut of sexual goodies, and everyone's like, Jesus Christ, we get it. He was some weird fetish freak. And he did weird shit in this old house, I guess, and that's how he operates. And so he's going to do weird shit, I suppose, with these guys. He's going to play with them. Fisher's downstairs. He's reading a book. He's being closed off. He's like, I'm just going to sit here. And then suddenly she comes around the corner and he hears her. He looks and she's fondling the boobs of some statue. I mean, there's not a lot of ambiguity here. She's like, oh, my goodness, Mr. Fisher. Oh. She comes slinking on over. He's like, are you drunk? Have you been drinking? No, I haven't, but it sounds like a good idea. She walks over and she makes herself a Cosmo, and she tries to get him to drink some. He won't drink it. And then she comes up and she starts talking about how maybe they should do some debauchery. I want everyone to do it. I want to have a big orgy. You, me, Miss Tanner, and I want her to take the crucifix and shove it up your butt. He's like, shut the fuck up, and he slaps her. Oh, how dare you! Oh. She was opening up her nightgown, and she runs upstairs and goes to bed. Now, I need to point something out. This nightgown is, I don't know, typical of what these guys wear when they go to bed. I wear a shirt, I wear pants to bed. My wife wears a dress and a pinafore. But the one person who wears nothing to bed is Miss Tanner, the nun or whatever. She takes off her clothes at night. She defrocks all the way down, not a stitch. And she gets in bed and she'll put on the covers and she'll be like, Daniel, come and take me. If you need my body to give you release, I've taken off all my clothes. So come in whatever hole you feel like. I don't know why she operates that way. It's so weird. Only she does that. You know what? There's another day. And Miss Tanner, she gets attacked by a cat. I guess it's possessed by Daniel Belasco. Maybe. Who knows? I gotta say, it's pretty ridiculous. They're throwing a cat around. It's kind of like cut with shots of a real cat being coaxed about with a piece of fish. But then it'll cut to them throwing a fake cat onto her. Ah! She's running around the room. Daniel Belasco has possessed the pussy. And later on, she comes to them and she's like, I have scratches and they were done by an animal. And they're like, well, we think you did it to yourself. And Lionel, Dr. Barrett, he sees her pointing and he's like, wow, she could have reached it with her finger. Or she could have used a back scratcher with nails on it. She's crazy. They don't give her the benefit of the doubt. She has kind of a little bitch fit, too. Again, they're at breakfast, and there's a bunch of food on the table. It's set for kings, and it's just 3 of them. And not all of them are even there. I think it just starts out with Dr. Barrett. He's, like, taking a chunk out of the turkey. Pheasant feather. And then Miss Tanner comes up, and she gives him a tongue lashing. She's like, how dare you give me this really dismissive tone, this patronizing demeanor of yours? I mean, these sittings that we've been having, I don't think you're taking them seriously. And I think you think I'm full of shit, but I'm not. And she starts quoting the Bible. Sits down, and he's like, well, are you quite finished, Miss Tanner? At this point, the ghost, Daniel, takes her side. I don't know what this is. He gets ticked, and he ends up attacking Dr. Barrett, and it's pretty brutal, I have to say. It doesn't pull any punches. A bunch of shit flies across the table that's got spikes on it. I don't know why they would have stuff with spikes on it. So it flies across the table, and it almost smashes into him, and his chair falls over, and the chandelier almost falls on him, and sprays sparks on him, fire flies at him. I think a mirror falls on him. This ghost really tries to fucking kill him. It goes all out. I'm surprised he gets away. And she screams for it all to stop, and it stops. And she regrets that immediately, because then they all blame her. Wow, if you stopped it, you must have started it. I mean, that's not fair. I mean, she might have intervened and stopped it. She doesn't get any thanks for that. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I stopped the ghosts from tormenting us or causing fires, and that's all I get. And she starts blaming Mr. Fisher. She tries the old, Mr. Fisher, shut up! He's a physical medium, or he would do this. Not me. I'm a mental medium. I'm totally crazy. Dr. Barrett doesn't believe her anymore. He's like, there's going to be no more sittings, Miss Tanner. No more! And he leaves. And she's upset. And I guess the spook comes to her another time. And at this time, it's like, you know what? I'm going to help you prove to these guys that Daniel Belasco is real. She's walking around the house, and she goes down to the cellar, and she sees a wall, and somehow she opens it, and she looks down, and she sees a dead body. It's Daniel Belasco. And poor boy, he's chained up. He's all gooey and gross looking. I guess it was sexual. They're like, yeah, we found a dildo in his ass, and you don't even want to know what kind of animal dildo it was. And so they take it out of his ass, and they give him a proper burial. They do it out in the yard, which is, this is stupid. Why do they do that? Anyone can come to the house at any fucking time. People do. So why they don't call the police? I don't know. Or just someone to come take it away. But they're like, nah, we need to do it. Because Miss Tanner maybe wants to practice her eulogizing. She's got a little book, and she's talking, saying, God bless us in the valley of death. I fear no evil. Purple Mountain's majesty, amen. And They all throw some dust on there, and they walk back in. But by the way, who knows if it's even really Daniel? Because again, he doesn't exist. It turns out he's a fake projection, again, of Emmerich Belasco. Okay, so I gotta let you know, the horny old man ghost who's into weird-ass, butt play is not through with Anne. He's not through with her. He's got weird stuff to say with Fisher. There's like a strange score to settle. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to embarrass you, Fisher. So she comes downstairs again while he's downstairs reading. You think he would have learned his lesson. And she comes, kind of gliding around the corner. She looks all drunk again. Mr. Fisher, what's going on? I come downstairs, my husband's asleep. He won't touch me! I want you to do it. And she pulls her jacket open. She's totally naked. Oh! He doesn't slap her this time, or he doesn't shake her. He doesn't do that. He's just like, you need to go to bed. You need to leave me alone. God damn it. Touch me. Touch me or I'll find someone who will. Uh-oh. We look upstairs and it's Lionel. And there's no explaining this. She kind of goes woozy. We see it from her point of view. It's like you're on Ambien or something. She's and she falls on the ground. We immediately cut to some good acting. For once in the whole movie, we cut to a little good acting. And she's like, please, I'm not asking you to forgive me. Just please don't hate me. I don't hate you, dear. I'm trying to act. Trust me, I'm trying to be sad or compassionate. I don't know. I'm having a hard time. They get upset with Mr. Fisher. They're like, Fisher, you're not keeping up your end of the deal. You're not helping out. And he also talks to the ghost through Miss Tanner at a certain point, and the ghost has not a lot to say to him. He's like, you're shit, Mr. Fisher. I mean, that's really what it says. It's like, you're shit.
You may think you're cool, but now you're shit.
Well, god damn it. How dare you call me shit? So he's not helping anybody. And they're like, listen, dude, you need to open up to the ghosts. This is where they tell him. You need to lay back, spread your legs, and expose your soul to the spirits, or I can't help you. You don't deserve the money. So, this is great. He's like, okay, everyone leave the room. And he goes and he sits down and he starts going, and immediately the ghost, I don't know, fists him or something. He's like, oh! I mean, immediately, the spirits come flying in. And he falls on the floor and he's, and I guess he does that for a while until he feels better, because we cut away from that. We're done. Now, he has a couple of revelations, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, at a certain point here, he goes downstairs to find Dr. Barrett, and he sees that a large machine has been delivered to the house by Deutsch Industries. I don't know if the fact that Mr. Deutsch hired him had anything to do with the construction of this machine. It was mentioned at the very beginning of the film, very briefly, to a character we saw for 2 seconds. It was some guy. He's like, I want the machine completed. Is it complete? No, it's not. Go complete it then. That was it. It might not be important because, again, the dialogue sucks and some of it's non sequitur and meanders. But no, it turns out that they were building some kind of weird-ass science machine. He's like, remember, I am a scientist. I don't just sit here and talk about what I watch mediums do. I'm actually a scientist. And I built this large machine. It kind of looks like a large washing machine. And it's got, some dials on it. And basically, it's a polarity reverser. Now, I have concluded that there are no surviving personalities, but there is surviving energy. It's residual energy. This is how those people on that Ghost Hunters show start eking their way into logical people's minds. They're like, it's residual energy. It's just energy that you squeeze out like a fart, and it just lingers on the environment. And other people pick up on it. He's like, I believe, as a man of reason, that there's weird-ass energy in the air, and you can look at it through Kirlian photograms. And this machine I've developed here, which is large and looks this way for no reason, when turned on, can reverse this energy and essentially depolarize the ghosts. He's like, this house is a gigantic battery. He's going to suck the energy out of the house. Was this what he came here to do? Do you remember what our mission was? It was to get the facts. Is there an afterlife? That's all they had to do. Then they could just leave the house. Go tell them that. Give them the tapes or give them whatever notes they took. Witness testimony. I don't know. They could have done that a couple of days ago. They found that out when she started ejaculating ectoplasm. But now we're on some weird mission to defeat the house, drain its energy with a weird machine. This just took a weird turn, and they do it so gradually. Again, they slip you into it so slowly that you're like, yeah, let's fight the house, even though that's not at all what we came here to do. Yes, I've made it my mission to fuck with the house. I've made enemies with it. And Fisher decides to make a big deal out of it. He starts running up and down the stairs. He's kind of dashing around. And he says this. I can't believe this. This is so weird and contradictory. He goes, listen, Hell House doesn't mind a guest or two every now and then, but what it doesn't like is people fucking with it and trying to depolarize it and liquidate it. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, hold on. 27 people died in this house, and, a bunch of people were crippled or thrown about or maybe murdered in the last 2 investigations, and now you're telling me it doesn't mind a guest every now and then? Yeah, so the house would be cool if you would just get the machine out of the living room and stop fucking with it, man. I mean, you can tell the house is spooked, right? It's taking this seriously. And it takes control of Miss Tanner. Okay, here's the thing. She gave herself to Daniel last night, all right? She opened up her vagina. And he entered, and he did wonderful things, I suppose, or weird things. He keeps doing the whole, join us, join us. She went there, okay? So the next morning she comes out, she's like, I'm feeling like a woman. Why is my cross hanging upside down? And she comes walking in, and she's like, what's the machine, boys? What's going on? And when she learns that it's going to kill her boyfriend, Daniel, she freaks out. And she does it sneakily, though. She's like, oh, really? Is that what you plan to do? One of those rhetorical questions. You're going to depolarize the ghosts. You're really going to depolarize those ghosts, eh? He's like, yeah, I am. So suck it. Another comeback. And so she's like, fine. And she turns and she grabs a fire poker and starts smashing at it. She goes at it. And then Dr. Barrett comes up and she fucking knocks him. He falls on the ground and Mr. Fisher runs up and kicks her in the puss, or I don't know what happened. They incapacitate her somehow. They set her down somewhere, but she gets up and runs away while they're tending to Dr. Barrett. And she decides that she's got to go to the chapel. She's been drawn to the chapel. I can't remember why she wants to go there now. But she must! And so she goes into the chapel, house of God. Why doesn't she kneel when she walks up to the altar? Seems like good etiquette. She just walks up and she goes up to the Christ effigy and she stares at it. And she's like, Daniel, do you want me to be murdered? Yeah! It falls on her. And she doesn't die immediately, but there's blood all over the place. I gotta say, it's pretty brutal. There's lots of blood. She's like coughing it up. And then she suddenly, I don't know, she looks up, there's like a light in her face, and she's like, it's you! It's you! I know who you are, but I'm going to die. I want them to know. And so she starts taking her blood, and she starts drawing something, and I guess she made some noise, or they heard something fall over and break. They might have thought it was like some china. They go in there, no, it's Miss Tanner, and she's dead. And they're like, well, she's in heaven now, or whatever. What's that? And they see something there on the... And for a long time, this symbol means nothing to them. Here's what it is. It's a bee in a circle. It's a bee. I mean, they really don't know what this means. They're like, oh, God. Like, they go and turn the machine on, and then they leave the house and continue thinking about it. Smoke them if you got them. This machine's going to take at least 15 minutes to clear out the house. So while they're doing that, they're thinking about the bee. They're like, God, what could the bee mean? What could the bee stand for? Wait a minute. Belasco! That's it. Belasco did it. Does that go without saying? Oh, yeah, it was Belasco who did it. Well, that's true, all right? That's true. Belasco did kill her, I suppose, but she could have taken that opportunity to do something more meaningful. So she's dead, and they left her in the house, by the way, and they're not going to call the police to come get her body. They're going to bury her outside, too. They're just not going to read a Bible over her, because she was the only one committed to that idea. So they go back in. Again, this is not something that takes place overnight. And the machine makes a humming noise, and that's how they know it's stopped. They go in, and they're like, yeah, it's so convenient that the windows were bricked up. We didn't have to put a tent on the house. And all the spooks are gone. And Fisher doesn't believe it. He's like, that machine is a pile of junk. It's like he's hearing a dog whistle, and he runs around, and it's absolutely clear! It's clear! That was the original version of this house is clean. Kind of a more spastic version. So he's jumping around, he's hopping about, and, you know, Dr. Barrett's feeling good about himself. This Tanner is dead. He's like, yeah, I was right. It feels good. I think I'm going to spend a night in the house, you know, the old place. And so he goes into his study, and you bet the ghosts are pissed. He turned on some machine and tried to fumigate them out, and now they've had it. They're like, you know what, no more playing around. It's time for murder. He's got a Geiger counter, or he's got something on the table, and he turned it on for shits and giggles, I suppose. He's like, you know, just in case any whiffs of radiation come in the room. And it turns on, he hears it, and then it blows up in his face. I mean, if you're waiting for him to write down readings or for ghosts to appear, it just blows up. And his wife hears that, and she's like, honey... And this is what's funny, is she goes in, and he's been totally murdered, like, top to bottom. There's a chandelier on him, and there's, like, knives sticking out of him. There's blood all over the place. I mean, all it did was blow up in his face, right? She goes in there, and the ghost is gone to town. And Dr. Fisher is like, you know, I don't think we should leave the house yet. I mean, 2 people we know have died, but I think that I need to go confront the ghost. I mean, the machine didn't work, so we're going to do it my way. The psychic way. And she's like, well, I'd better come with you. What is she doing here? Her character is unnecessary. I mean, you could take her out of the film. But for some reason, she's at the end of the movie, and she's still hanging out. This isn't even her husband. What's her excuse this time? So she goes into the chapel with him. He's like, that's the chapel. It's the only place where I still feel the old juju. So he goes inside, and he's feeling it again. You know, he's getting the vibes. And she stands back. He's like, you're going to have to stand back. Because I think she says something to him, and he tells her to fuck off. You can't interfere, all right? I'm in the zone. And he's looking forward. A light is shining behind this weird sort of stained glass crucifix thing that's behind where the effigy was. It's laying on the floor now. So he's looking at the light, and there's wind whipping him. He's shouting. He does this for, like, I don't know, 10 minutes. He just shouts into the wind. He shouts curses. He shouts nothing profound, nothing that changes anything, nothing I haven't heard before. Or it's shit that I don't need to hear. He's insulting it. He's dropping some F-bombs. I'm just wondering, what's he doing that's out of the ordinary? What, is this getting to the ghost? And then suddenly, the window shatters. Well, thank goodness. That's what they were waiting for. That's how you open the door. They go up and, come on in with me. Come on in. Let's see what's in here. They walk in, and I gotta tell you, man, what they walk in on is actually kind of creepy. It's a little creepy, but I'll let you know right now that this is not a ghost or anything. There's a dude sitting in a chair, and it's like in a blank room, and he's like some old dude. He's got this gray face and white hair, and he's got a scotch in his hand, and he's all covered in dust. And so he's got a lamp, and it's on next to him, and it's been on since Emmerich Belasco disappeared. That's right, in 1929, he disappeared. He went into this room, and he died with a scotch in his hand, I guess. And here's the deal. One of the things that's been understood over the course of this film is that Mr. Belasco, one of his greatest attributes was that he was tall. He was known as the Roaring Giant. He was 6'5". So was my dad's secretary. That made people afraid of him. Now, as it turns out, he wasn't even 5 foot tall. He was a munchkin. And you would know that by looking at his body. Or would you? Fisher's like, give me a knife. And here you go. Takes it. He like cuts into his legs and he rips it open. And it turns out that his legs are fake. He had his own legs amputated so he could wear fake ones and look taller. This is his great secret? What does this have to do with anything? Yes, this was his great secret. This is why he murdered 27 people. They all found out. They saw him without his prosthetic legs on. So he felt like he should be taller. And here's the interesting thing, too. You might be wondering, how is the rest of the house clear? But Emmerich Belasco lives on. It turns out that this room is lined with lead. which this machine cannot penetrate. Remember, it's based on some weird flimsy parascience. So there's limitations. And you can't get through lead. That stops its weird frequencies from murdering spirits. So he was alive, and in his body... What? Okay, so yeah, apparently his ghost is hovering around his body. It takes refuge in there like a bee in a hive. But they're going to leave the door open. Too bad, Emmerich. You blew the window open, and we're going to fumigate you. And so they go and turn the machine back on because they're convinced it'll work. God, really? I can't believe this machine works. So they leave, they lock up the door. They're like, well, that's Hell House for you. It's quite a legend. What were we doing? Then they leave. And, yeah, so are they going to deliver the facts? Are they going to get the money? What did we accomplish? Are they just going to leave the machine in there? What is this? Okay, so yeah, that's the end of the film. We've detoxified the house, even though that's not really what our goal was. And 2 people died. They're both buried in the yard. And that's it. Again, this movie is great atmospherically. Bongo music here and there if you like it. Terrible dialogue that will really get on your nerves. It's daytime soap opera stuff. But lots of blood. And at one point you do kind of see Miss Tanner naked. It's kind of in shadow, but it's the night that she gives herself fully to the spirits.